Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
And so Donald Trump got a lecture from Bishop Mariann Edgar Budde. He got a sermon there on the pulpit about LGBT rights, about immigration. It was probably the wrong place to do it. It's politicizing a mass or church. And it's something that we see more frequent now with different bishops and priests sometimes using the church pulpit as a place to make political statements, which is, of course, is completely
That's
incorrect.
right. Yeah, completely incorrect. Now, President Trump is an evangelical Christian, and in Washington, there's an evangelical cathedral. It's called a cathedral, and why I don't know. I think that always applied to Catholic places, but they call it a cathedral, but I don't think I'd be calling it that. But suffice to say, he attended with his wife, the Vice President J.D. Vance, and his wife, and perhaps other members of their family. And they were going to this service to pray, I suppose, and be hope to hear the word of God. But they didn't hear the word of God. They got a political diatribe from this deluded lady bishop, and she used the occasion to belittle President Trump 2 days into his presidency, and speak about homosexual and lesbian people as if like they were saints, and also migrants. And it's quite obvious in anybody following what events in the United States that there's millions of illegal people entered, and a lot of them former murderers and criminals and devil knows what. And also, another important ingredient that seemed to be, what's the word, not alluded to, drugs. Drugs flooding with some lethal sort of a thing attached to it. And 200,000 or odd young people, probably more for all we know, died from drug overdoses or drug addictions with some element in it that caused these deaths. So aside altogether from the business of illegal immigrants, they're perfectly welcome if they're legal and go through the process of being vetted and so on and so forth. They have a much better system there for these people coming from South America to be legal than we have when our people go from here to the United States when we did have a quota. And unfortunately, with Fianna Fáil, Mr. Lamass, Taoiseach stroke Prime Minister, and President Kennedy, he persuaded them to do away with it because we were going to have full employment, which of course we didn't have. And people then going to America were illegal and until they got a green card or whatever you call it, and then they were legal. But so we don't have that great advantage that they have if they're coming from other countries south of the border there in between Mexico and that. So these are the factors, and this this unfortunate, this deluded lady bishop, she could be defrocked if the fella says, because you can't do you have to show respect to people when they come to church to be to pray and to have their spirits uplifted. That's why you go to church, go to mass. Now the evangelical church, I don't know. Did they give communion? Did they have a tabernacle? I know they don't have the Stations of the Cross, so it's what would I call it? It's whatever you're having yourself, and usually they're reading the Bible, and then that's what the sermon is about. But this situation turned into a diatribe from this lady minister, and I saw a picture of her, and she looks a very peculiar. I didn't notice that she was wearing clerical garb or anything, but a very peculiar looking person to be a bishop. And I did prophesy there one time in our previous videos that I thought President Trump in due course might convert to become a Catholic, and I can see that he will, because he won't be going to that cathedral anymore, wherever else he goes. I hope he goes to Catholic churches and that he won't hear that nonsense. But unfortunately, there's a new cardinal appointed in Washington, McElroy, and he's one of these liberals, in not in the good sense of the word. And he would be another woke individual. Not many people support his views. He sings from the hymn sheet that the Pope sings from, and he's some way astray, according to a lot of people. For example, the universal language of the Catholic faith, Latin, was that you could get mass everywhere. He seems to be have something against it and calling them names. So he's astray, and he mentioned to President Trump staring into the political thing about migrants as if they're sort of law abiding. We know that they're not, even here. So is he? What sort of information does he get? Is it all diluted and that kind of thing? So what I'm saying is that they want to preach the word of God if they're in a church and have a be a minister or what have you, and forget about interfering with the political situation. President Trump has the responsibility to try and rescue America, United States from the woke brigade that was there before he was elected. They've gone astray completely with abortion and gender evil and different knows what. So when President Trump said male and female, he made them. That's it, full stop. And anything else that's portrayed is a deviation from that. And people that have the tendencies of homosexual, lesbian, they want to be when they're young. If they have it when they're young, they want to be treated, and I'm sure they could be treated if they're born a girl. Well, then that's what they are. If they're born a boy, it doesn't matter what they say about having chromosomes or something. I think that's
You're talking about, I
misinformation.
think what you're talking about there is ambiguous genitalia. When they have both sex organs, some people are born that way.
Well, you see, this is what they say, but who do we know? We did this. This is another thing thrown into the pot. Assuming that they have that difficulty, well, then I'm sure they could be treated before going down any road that leads to the like of this homosexual or lesbian business. I don't think they're all ones that have problems with their what they were practicing, because quite frankly, sin is rampant in the world. There's no question or doubt about that. Between abortion and same-sex marriage, euthanasia, and gender evil, there's a whole heap of stuff going on, and it needs to be sort of straightened out.
I
The
think
truth needs to be told. If people have this business of chromosomes or whatever you like to call it, they could be treated before they start going down a very bad road. And because we all have to respect ourselves and our bodies, if we're heterosexuals, in other words, normal, we can't be just going around doing what we like.
I
We
think it's
have
an
to
area
respect
of
ourselves and then
biological
respect
and
others.
theologic um, complexity. But the thing is, I think the bishop, what's wrong here is that the bishop, of course, turns the mass into a political exercise. If you look at the LGBT community and you look at the gay community at large, they generally get on with their lives. What's kind of happened with them is, because I have a gay friend and he told me, he says he's not part of that whole politicizing of the gay people, of the LGBT people. And he said, all these people who start talking about it, politicizing it, make their situation much, much worse. So I think the bishop here was bang out of order. She shouldn't be talking like that inside in the church, and it's
Correct.
actually quite divisive what she said. It's as
She is,
equally
yeah.
as divisive of what she's accusing Trump of.
Well, she should never have used that occasion, and I think that her career she should re-examine what she's at, and if she wants to go into the political arena, go into it, and don't be, because I don't think I'd like to be listening to anything like that in any church. and like they have a service. They don't have the mass that we have. They have a service and reading the Bible usually, and that's what they talk about. It's the from the Reformation, which we know caused persecution of Catholics, right, left, and centre. In this country. We know that quite well. We're well aware of it. Happened in Britain as well. Churches and monasteries destroyed, and the great education that they provided and the great comfort that they provided for people that weren't well off, poor people, they suddenly starved to death. But the people that took all this, did all this reformation, and the evangelical business is descending of that, and their agenda leaves a bit to be desired, quite frankly. And the business of the Pride Month and all this, pride is a sin. Pride is not to be recommended. Respect is the fundamental civilized way to behave towards people and to do what needs to be done. President Trump is not a bully. He knows what needs to be done and he intends to achieve it. But people are treated with American people will be treated with respect. But it's not often reciprocated back. President Trump was a victim of this business of being attacked by somebody that you would the least person you'd expect to be attacking you. Now, when he was being inaugurated, as I say, Cardinal, um, the Cardinal in New York, he he um, he gave the homily or gave the talk in the beginning, and then other ones did, evangelical, and there was a black pastor, and he was excellent. He was really he touched from above. He was good at that, and there was others. So it was a very unified. Everybody got their chance to ask for God's blessing, and that was good. But it won't be tight somebody coming out and coming in with something. Well, that would come out when he went to church, which he wouldn't be expecting that. I presume he's gone to these evangelical services, and this must be an exception of a one in Washington, which is the headquarters of a lot of the Pentagon and all the states and all the rest of it. So to be at that racket is very dangerous. And don't forget the Pentagon. A lot of people lost their lives there in 9/11 when these terrorists, most of them from Saudi Arabia, with the planes driving into the Twin Towers and going down and getting to destroy the Pentagon. Hundreds of people lost their lives, and then they were making for the White House when it was knocked down from when the people attacked these yokes that had taken the planes, and they couldn't land them, but they could steer them, and what they did. So this is the background to in the United States, and President Trump has common sense. He hasn't got an extreme view of Adam. Common sense. People are entitled to be protected in America. There's an awful lot of violence in cities because law and order has fallen down under the previous administration. So everything needs to be fixed, and the police need to be properly trained and equipped so as they can deal with all this. You see,
I think
go
President
ahead.
Trump's presidency will be a presidency of it's either black or it's white. There's no in between. That's the way it's going to be. I think he will try to achieve probably too much. He's already there's a big agenda going on, but I think he will be. There's a lot of people very worried about Trump's presidency. There's nothing to worry about whatsoever because he can only achieve so much. He can only do so much, and I really think. If I remember my aunt saying in her history in her lifetime, they all end up being the same anyway. So, he will make changes, but he won't make the radical changes that he might think he would like to make.
He wouldn't. He won't be making radical changes. No, he'll be using common sense on about
Yeah.
none of this. The fact of the matter is, there's a lot needs to be done, and it can be done without any of this kind of extreme sort of. He hasn't got any extreme views about anything. He has common sense. Now, there's a lot of people haven't got that to have agendas, but he intends to clean up the United States and make it a prosperous place and a safe place for people to live in, and that their cost of living will go down because he's doing away with a lot of stuff. For example, he's resigned from this climate business in Paris, whatever that is, and he's also resigned from the World Health Organization, which was in receipt of a billion euros, most of their budget from from um, from the United States under the previous administration. And quite frankly, he's indicated that he's have nothing to do with that when that thing runs out. They're finished, and because they have an agenda, and it's the woke business. It's promoting all sorts of evil that nobody wants, the killing of the innocent, never knows what. And countries happen to follow the terrible agendas that they have because and all the rest of it. So he's trying to deal with things in the proper way. I mean, that's what he was elected for. People are assured. If there's ones that object or that want things to go peculiar the way they were going, well, they can perhaps go somewhere else where everything has gone pear shaped. If you get me drift. So, don't forget during the Olympics in France, the business of the insulting of the Last Supper and the terrible ceremonies that they had that caused outrage throughout the world. So, I mean, people's memories seem to be shocking short, in my opinion. President Trump will do the best he can. He's not going to be extreme, trying to put through things that people don't want. He'll be trying to do things that people will benefit, the ordinary law-abiding citizen.
John
Yeah.
Malone, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.